Welcome, everyone. Hello to all our attendees today. I'm super happy that you guys again showed in such a large number to another OPTOSYS webinar. So thank you for being there once again. My name is Eric. I'll be your presenter today. I'm the team leader here for OPTOSYS, and I'll be joined by my colleague, Marc-Andre. Marc-Andre, how are you today?
Good. How's it going, Eric?
I'm doing so great, Marc-Andre. We have such a nice subject of the webinar today, a big one, and that actually implies all our day-to-day activities in OPTOSYS, which is the inventory management. So I'm very glad to be able to present it today. Thank you very much, Marc-Andre. And of course, thank you very much, everyone, to be there. I hope that we'll be able to answer some of your questions through the webinar, but also give you more insight on how to use OPTOSYS the best way possible to have the best inventory management in your favorite optometry software, obviously. So we'll start right away, if you don't mind, because we have a lot to discuss today. So Marc-Andre, first and foremost, will the webinar be available in the future after this presentation?
Absolutely. So if you miss our webinar or you miss parts of it, that's okay. You could head over to our YouTube page, and we have a playlist called OPTOSYS Webinars that you could click on, and all our webinars are available on YouTube, usually the day after our webinar.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have a great YouTube channel that you can register to if you want it, making sure that you don't miss any one of those new videos, training videos, webinar, informational videos that will, or even marketing videos that we'll put out to help you in your everyday use of OPTOSYS. Along with the webinar, will we be able to ask Eric or Marc-Andre questions during the webinar today, Marc-Andre?
Absolutely. So if you head over to the question window pane here on the far right of your webinar settings, you could actually click on questions, ask us your question. I'll either answer it in the form of text, or I'll stop Eric and we'll ask the question for everyone to participate.
Exactly, and don't hesitate to stop me, Marc-Andre, while I'm going to talk. And please do ask questions if you have any. So normally, if you do have questions, maybe there's other people that actually ask themselves the same questions, so we can actually make everyone benefit from those questions and answers. And I'll be very glad to be able to delve into the details of your specific question, or maybe sometimes I go a bit fast and your question might actually go back in something that I showed earlier, so we can put a point on something important for you guys. So thank you very much, Marc-Andre. So Marc-Andre, if you don't mind, we'll start a little short poll today. We only have one question today, just to know a bit more about who's going to be attending the webinar today. So we can launch the poll, please.
So I will launch this poll right now. And we've got a question here. So what is your biggest challenge with the OPTOSYS inventory management? So out of all these choices, we've got doing redos and warranties, fun. Making sure my inventory in OPTOSYS is correct and precise, even funner. Finding the information, so reports that we need. Understanding how OPTOSYS manages the quantities, that's a good one. Or all of the above. Don't be shy. If the answer is all of the above, that's okay.
So we want to know what's your main pain points with inventory. So maybe you join us today for the webinar because you have one of those situations that you encounter every day. And of course, we'll be able to, if you all have the same answer, we'll be able to actually focus maybe more on one of the slides, let's say, today than others if needed. So I think that a lot of people responded.
So let's share these results here.
Oh, so I see that making sure my inventory is correct is very important. Obviously, that there's no point of managing inventory if it doesn't actually reflect what we have on the board. So that makes a lot of sense. And for all of you that answer all of the above, I completely understand. So you just want to be better at every one of those aspects in OPTOSYS to really use our favorite software as much as possible in all its glory. So thank you very much, Marc-Andre. So now we'll start talking about the subject because, like I said, there's so much to be said about the inventory. I will try to give you as much information as possible within the next hour. So we'll talk about the best practices, but before we do that, we'll have to actually establish the basis together, because some of you might be using OPTOSYS for a while, but some of you might be new. So I just want to make sure that everything we're going to talk about will be understood. And for that to happen, we need to actually set up the fact that OPTOSYS is a FIFO first in, first out logic. So it will always take, so if you have, let's say, 2 frames in your inventory and you sell one, it will always take the older of the frames. Of course, in our industry, a frame with the same color and the same sizes of the previous one, we cannot differentiate them. So yes, one will have a reception number that it's older than the new ones, but if you close your eyes and I mix them, you won't be able to see the difference. So it's not a big deal. It just allows you to be a lot better at selecting, automatically, I should say, selecting the right frame when you're doing any transactional inventory. So let's say an invoice, a return, or an adjustment. So we'll be able to use that FIFO first in, first out notion in the system. So it will help you manage it, but it's also take a lot of decisions for you also at the same time. So once that is established, we can continue. One other thing you want to establish here is the difference, a very big difference, between the catalog and the inventory. Of course, they're linked together, obviously. So a product that we have in our catalog, a frame, contact lenses, lenses, miscellaneous product, even the treatment that we have in the categories of OPTOSYS, those are products that we have in our catalog. And either the catalog have been downloaded from a really nice product catalog, online catalog that we can download from the major suppliers in the industry, mostly frame lenses, but nearly all the contact lenses suppliers. Those, when we download it, don't have a quantity yet. So once you create your product, when you download it, it's just a definition, just in like you're browsing a catalog of available products. However, we'll only start talking about inventory when quantities and quantity transaction will be attached to those products. So doing a reception for a product will actually put it in your inventory. Selling that product will remove it from your inventory and so forth. So that's what I'm going to tackle today, is not more the product specifically and the management of those products, but mostly the management of our quantities in the system. So yes, we see at the bottom here in the last dot, the transaction affect the inventory. So we have the reception, obviously, and we'll see that it's the only way to add products to our inventory. Invoices that removes, adjustment that removes, returns that remove, frame movement that removes, pretty much, yeah, I can say that removes and add another one. We'll see that's new. And of course, the cancellation. So if we cancel a reception and invoice, adjustment returns, those do the opposite result, obviously. So catalog is not the inventory. So today we'll take a look at the inventory and not the product management. So because we need to start with the product, because of course the quantity is attached to the product, we'll come here to define what it is. So of course that screen. So when we go to settings and then we go to product, frame, and products again, we'll be able to have that screen. So I want to once again set the basics for everyone to see. So yes, we have a search product. So that's maybe how I went there to look for my Securo product. Then I went to maybe modify, create, to be able to either edit or create that product myself. It is not something that I downloaded. We have the 2 layers of tabs, which is super important. So here we'll be able to specify for each category, so each frame, contact lenses, ophthalmic lenses, treatment, medicinal products, all the suppliers, the brands, and the products in those different categories. So if the supplier is shared through all the categories, the brands and the product are specific to those categories. So we can have Bausch & Lomb brands and products under the contact lenses, but we can also have another Bausch & Lomb brand and product for miscellaneous, for those contact lens solutions like the bio-free and so forth. So you'll be able to define your product as such. Just make sure that in the right category, because that too will affect your inventory. Then yes, your cost can be hidden if you wanted to by pressing F7 on your keyboard. So if you're in the dispensing or in the reception, and there's patients working around walking around you and you don't want to show them your cost, it's okay to show the sales price, obviously, but it's not okay to show the cost. You can actually click F7 and we'll hide the cost in here, but also in the retail, the detail afterwards. The tax will only apply on products that are added directly in the invoice. So by example, if you use one of those sunglasses that you checked tax 1 or tax 2, depending on the provinces, and you just do it from a lab order, OPTOSYS will know not to add. So because you actually added that frame from a lab order to an invoice, OPTOSYS will assume that there is a prescription on those glasses, even if there is actually sunglasses in the category. However, if you just go into the invoice, add a product directly in the invoice, and you added that sunglasses, the taxes will be calculated as it should. Then there is a details in here. So to actually, that's where the quantities are attached. So that Securo Luca, that safety sport glasses, will never in itself have a quantity attached to it. And not even actually that's what's going to be sold. It's actually the item numbers and the details that will have quantity attached to it. And that's not only true for frames, it's also true for lenses, contact lenses, missiles products. If we don't have a detail with an item number, whatever it's B2B or not, doesn't matter. This is what will be attached, the quantities to it. So you can have frame with different color and sizes, like in this example, that have different item numbers and different quantities. In the ophthalmic lenses, it could be different type of powers. In the contact lenses, it could be the trial, the non-trial, the 30, 90 bucks version of each of those contact lenses that will be attached to those quantities. And in the missiles products, it could be, let's say, a bottle of 100 millimeters of something versus a bottle of 200 millimeters of something that will have different quantities attached to them. So as you see, it's pretty much logic. If ever also, just, you put actually a price in those details in here, that price will override the product price. So if we say that the Luca Securo is $194, if you have a diamond Justin Bieber edition of it, you'll be able to sell it at a different price if needed, and that will override all the prices for the other colors that will be defined in the product level. Also, we have the boutique and the B2B catalog indicator. So if for the one who uses a boutique, showing your frame online on your website, you'll be able to manage which frame is actually showed on the website. And that little cart, and we see it also beside the little details at the bottom, will show which frame, reframe in that case, but it could be lenses, contact lenses, have been downloaded from a B2B catalog. All right. I hope. Sorry, before I go forward, I forgot. Marc-André, do you have any questions from our participant today?
No, not yet. So no questions. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the question box, and I'll either answer them myself in the form of text, or I'll ask Eric to maybe share this with all of us.
Yes, thank you very much, Marc-André. Same thing, if you have any comments, like Eric, you're going too fast or too slow, please precise it in the question box. Thank you very much, Marc-André. So yes, so of course, following that product window that we saw together, we said that it's the details that really actually count for the quantities and for that inventory management that we'll be talking about. So when you double click on the detail, you'll have a lot of options. My favorite one is the transaction button. Why? Because it gives us all the different transactions of a specific item or detail. So it tells me when it was actually sold to a patient, when we received it, which patient was sold, if we return it, adjust it. So every time you'll have the same frame with the same color and the same size, OPTOSYS will be able to have a history of that frame. And that's only in the detail screen under the transaction button. We can also see the image, so that's a fun fact. But if it's, of course, a B2B product, a online catalog product, you'll be able to see the image of your frame or your contact lenses, by the way. Oops, so bring up. We have notes, so that's actually new in V44, where we can actually put French and English notes on our frames for specific details. So if you want to specify that this one is back ordered, or it takes 3 weeks to be ordered, or there's no parts available, you can put those notes in here if it's for a specific color or size combination. Also, we have the quantity. So let's start really talking about quantities here. So each detail will have its own quantity. And now this is important. If well, first of all, if you have multiple companies, you'll see all companies here. So you'll have your company 1, 2, and 3, and 4, depending on how many you have. If you have a stock number, which is, of course, 1, 2, or 3, that means that you have it in stock. If you have it at 0, that means that you had it in stock previously, but you no longer have it. If you see that there is nothing in the stock, so the stock value is empty, that's because you never had it in stock before, and it's possible that you'll have a minus amount. So we'll see later on that if you sell, like in this case, we see that in 2018, I sold this one. You can sell the product in OPTOSYS even if you don't have it in stock, which is normal in our industry because sometimes we're going to sell frames that we don't have the color in stock or we don't have the right size in stock. So we want to sell it to the patient, but we'll order it and we'll get it later on. So OPTOSYS will allow you to do that. However, until you actually receive it in OPTOSYS, that frame that you just sold in an invoice today will reside as a -1 quantity. And yes, the report will allow you to look at those -1 because if it's been there for a long time, that's not normal. And that's one of the things we can correct using the items in inventory report. And yes, for the eagle eye participant of you, you'll see also the quantity of stock in the transaction. So you see all the transaction. And OPTOSYS will calculate the quantity. So the -1 and the first one will cancel each other, and then there will be 2. So we're going to be able to calculate 2 automatically. OPTOSYS does that for you. You don't have to calculate it for yourself. So now that we establish what is a product and a detail and the quantities attached to the detail, well, that's why we're going to actually put the detail with the right size and color information of frame in the orders in here, because even, and that's also important, even if the order itself, so saving an order with a frame in it, doesn't have any effect right away on your inventory, because remember, it's your invoice when you do it that will actually remove your frame from the inventory, not the order. You're gonna still have, let's say, a decision to make when you do your order, your spectacle order or contact lens order, by the way, it's the same thing, and that will affect your inventory in the future. So when you're gonna do the order, in the section of the frame at the bottom, you'll have the ability to put your frame method at either external, that will allow you to enter a new reception number and date for a frame that you receive soon, or you'll be able to put internal if you want OPTOSYS to use a frame you currently have in stock. So external, if we either don't have it in stock or don't want, because it says choice, to use the one in stock. So it will wait for a new frame to come in. And internal if you do want to use it in stock. Those will normally have their roots in the frame status, whatever it's to supply, included, to follow. So it's in the spectacle RX to decide that. So of course, included means that they're going to actually send it with the lab order. Like you'll send the frame to the lab with the lab order. To follow, so it might be the fact that you need to order the frame so they can start the lens right now, and the frame will have it when we'll have it. It could also be that the patient only have one pair of glasses and they really need them day to day, and you want to limit the number of days that patient will actually be without glasses, so you can actually wait for the lenses to be finished and then send your patient home frame. Or to supply, those are for a frame and lens package, so you'll be able to actually tell the lab to supply it themselves. So in that case, of course, if it's to supply, the method will be external. Then in the order screen, so that's another screen where we affect the inventory. That's where we receive our order. And I do hope that every one of you do that. So it's something that sometimes people not forget to do, but just take a decision not to do, because yes, creating orders is enough to do the order. And after that, you can follow up if you received or not through your trays. However, I strongly recommend to use the ordering management so we can receive the frame. And that's, once again, is to have the best inventory management procedures and the best practice along with it. Why? Because since a lot of receptions start with a right click on the order screen, it will actually bring that frame that we had in that external, let's say, and put it into our inventory. And if some of you guys have some optic lenses, stock lenses for single vision that you want to keep in stock, that will be also very important. And also now that we have the contact lens catalogs for Johnson & Johnson, Alcon, on top of what we had earlier with the Cooper and the Bausch & Lomb, well, you can also do your inventory for contact lenses. So that means that if you don't do the receiving of your orders in here, and you have maybe hundreds or thousands of orders, under pending status, well, it's going to be very difficult for you to have a very precise inventory. But if you do actually receive all your lab orders into the order screen that we took out of the inventory section that we in version 44, that we put in the own little place, and then you'll be able to really manage your current active orders, so the one you didn't receive yet, and you'll be able to use, if you're doing B2B orders, like for contact lenses or for the lenses, you'll be able to manage the statuses by clicking on refresh status from B2B orders. So all of the next batch, sent, confirmed, shipped, back ordered products will be updated. Of course, keep in mind that those status that we see on the top, they're specific to certain suppliers. So it's mostly the contact lens suppliers that will use, let's say, in next batch, rejected, back ordered, shipped. But yeah, everyone, all of them will be having the pending and the sent, at least just to having confirmation that they received it on their end.
I do have a great question here, Eric, while we're on this subject of receiving. When flagging a frame as external, once it's received, does it take it into account?
Absolutely. That's the whole point of actually managing the external versus internal. So here, if you put external, it will actually put the frame that you have in your order to be pending, because we're still waiting for one. But if we put internal, it will automatically put the frame as received, because it's going to use the one that we already have, and of course that we already received in the past. So that's why it's important to put the right method, because it will affect how we're going to receive it. So by example, if we have the lenses and the frame that we put external, everything will be pending. And when I receive my order, well, I'll have to specify if I'm receiving the lenses first or the frame first, or maybe together. I'll be able to do it one after the other. But yes, if I do receive an order and the frame was internal instead of external, then I won't have the ability to actually enter a new frame, because it's going to take the one from the board that we have in inventory. So very good question. It will absolutely impact the way it's received. Any other good question like this one, Marc-André?
No questions yet. Thanks, Eric.
Perfect. And yes, the receive status is always the final one, so you have the final say upon all those lab orders. So if you want to see the receive one, just check receive, click on refresh, and you'll see it receive in OPTOSYS. So it's good that your list will be a lot longer, but you'll be able to see all the receive one. And by the way, it's the same thing for all the other statuses. You can look for them using the different criteria here on the top. No problem. So let's do an example together. But before, I just want to go back in OPTOSYS to show you guys something. So in the order tab here, what I wanted to show you also, not only that, yes, we can see the orders and we can see the status of each of them, which is fine, but you might have seen that on the contact lens orders, and frankly, it will come for other suppliers also, we have less and less the reference information on the orders that we receive. So when we actually receive the order from the supplier, there's no reference names anymore, and that's for private, information. We don't want to divulge of patient information and so forth, so just keep it private. So instead, we use the order number. So the supplier will actually give you the order number from OPTOSYS on the actual order that you receive. So if you want to match it with the actual order, you can always use that little funnel that we inserted in OPTOSYS not very long ago that will allow you to search for a specific one. So if you're looking for the 6833, just go in the funnel, type in 6833, and you'll be able to find it right away. And then you'll be able to even identify it and single it out so you can see which order exactly that you received. So if you don't see a reference, you can use the numbers to filter your different orders directly in OPTOSYS instead of actually having to scroll with a name like we used to do in the past. So yes, from here, and of course, that's where we'll be able to actually do that reception, so receive order in here. And because this frame is internal, that's why it's already received. So if I click on receive order, I'm only gonna have my lenses to receive because there's no frame to be received again because it's already been received in the past. And voila, my whole order is now, I would say, disappears. Not really disappears. It doesn't show anymore because I'm not showing my received one, but it's logical that I don't see it because it's actually done. So there's right now the goal here is to see all the active one, not the done orders. But I can always, like I said earlier, check receive, click refresh, and I'll be able to see that same order again, even if it's on the receive status now. So it's just a matter of playing with the actual statuses in the order window of OPTOSYS. Okay, very good. Going back in here, I wanted to do a little example with you. So let's do an example of a redo or a warranty in OPTOSYS. So the patient bought their glasses, and let's say they want the frame is malfunctioning or there's something in the frame. We want to actually send it for warranty. So let's see how it works in OPTOSYS here. So going back into OPTOSYS, we'll go into our patient file where we have the warranty. We'll go under the RX because that's everything regarding dispensing start here. This is really the heart of your dispensing. And when you're ready to do your warranty, you're going to click on Add Medical. Please don't double click on the previous RX medical and change the date and change the use and everything, because then you're going to lose all the history of what you ordered 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months previous. So please don't edit a past one. Even then the date won't work and the link to the order won't work anymore. So just click on Add Spiticals. We're going to do a new order this time that will be only for warranty purposes. So this will be a lot more evident when we're going to look at the history of actually to see what happened for that patient in here. So let's say that we're doing a frame warranty. So in that case, of course, we don't need to have prescription values because well, it's just a frame. So why don't we click on add in here. So I don't need the RX because I'm doing a frame job warranty. The only thing I'm going to use in here is the use. I love using the use. I know some of you have it that you have to enter it by default, so you have to put something in. So if you don't actually have your use to be mandatory, at least in those cases that are a bit special, please put the use in there. And you'll see later why I'm pointing that out. And here, of course, we're going to actually specify which frame that we want to order as a warranty. And it will be the same principle, by the way, if we're doing a part, so a front or a temple or a nose pad or tips of the temples, you'll be able to do the same thing. But in that case, you would need a generic, front, left temple, right temple type of parts that you already defined in OPTOSYS as, and that's important, as frames. So we can actually put it in here because you cannot put a miscellaneous product in the frame selection in here. Of course, me, because I know that I'm doing an actual warranty, just to people can easily understand that it's a warranty, I'm going to remove the price because the patient won't pay for it, obviously. And I won't do any invoices for the patient because then again, they don't have to pay anything. So when I'm going to click on lab order, it will tell me, hey, you might have forgotten your lenses. So it says, ophthalmic lenses with details is required to create an order. Do you want to continue? You can click on yes. So that's just a warning for you to tell you it's not a complete glasses. Are you sure you want to do that? And of course, if you're in warranty, you do want to do that. And then you'll be able to order your frame. So I'll let you think about it. Will that frame that we're doing a warranty for, that we don't have in stock, we want to order a new one, a nice one, because we're returning the broken one, is that external or internal? 1, 2, 3. Yes, exactly. It's going to be external because we don't have it with us. We have to order it, the new one, directly from the supplier. So we're going to do that external, so allow us to specify a new invoice number and a new invoice date from our Marchand supplier in that case. So yes, you would actually maybe print it if you want to leave it into a tray somewhere. But for today, for my own example here, I'm just going to save it. So that created a new order. So of course, in here, in the orders, we'll be able to specify, not to specify, but to see the order that we've made, and we'll be able to click on that new order here and see that we only have a frame in this one. And the frame is actually pending in here. So once the new frame will be received in the office, or once you actually, receive the box with the new frame in it, yes, you're going to pop in the actual lenses of the patient in and so forth, like you should do. But also here, you'll have to specify that you received it, like any other orders. And then when I click on Receive Order, I'll be able to specify the invoice number of that frame, because I mean, even if the warranty frame, you didn't receive a credit yet for the previous one, and the date, of course, of when you received it, maybe the cost. So if it changes from $158 and just click on Save. So that's going to put, and you know that already because it's a reception, it's going to put that frame in your inventory. And then you might tell me, well, Eric, I don't really want it in my inventory because it's a warranty frame. So I'll never have it on my board. I want to give it right away to my patient. So I don't want it in my inventory. And this is actually where I'm going to go right now, is actually going in the inventory section. And I'm not going to do an adjustment. I'm not going to do a reception. I'm going to do, yes, you guessed it, a return. So we're going to return the old frame to the supplier for credit. So we did receive a new one, and now it's time to return that credit. The reason why I didn't return it before I did the order, or in between that I received the order, is that OPTOSYS won't allow me to return something if I don't have it in stock. But I want to have a return made so I can also follow up on my credits. So that's why the best case scenario is to do the receiving of the frame and then do the returns. That will be the easiest one for everyone that manages the inventory. So like usual, you click on Add Return. You're going to put in the actual information of the frame that you want to return. So of course, the same frame we just used for the inventory in here. Double click on it, and then you'll be able to select which reception you want to remove it from. So the old one or the new one. And yeah, you'll be able to actually specify the reason for return. So it could be defective maybe, or an exchange, or a rep return. So in that case, since it's a warranty, we'll just put it defective and your authorization number for this one. So once that's going to be done, like a lot of other transactions, the return removes the frame from the inventory. So if you had the frame following the reception of that frame, now with the return, you no longer have it in stock. So you have a stock of 0 in that case, and that's when you'll be able to right-click when you receive the credit to say that you received it. So you'll be able to manage a credit and making sure that that list in the returns are only for the frame that you didn't receive the credit yet. So if you've been waiting for a while for that credit, maybe time for you to call your supplier and say, hey, where's my credit? That was waiting for 1, 2, or 3 months, maybe, if you didn't actually see it coming. So then it won't fall into the cracks. So yes, that's why my little example for a warranty. I didn't had to do anything on the invoice, obviously, because the patient already paid for it and they got exactly the same frame. So there is nothing to be changed in terms of amount or discount in the invoice. However, I had to redo a new order for that frame and do that return for that old frame to really have the complete history and the complete information about my warranty.
I do have a question here for you, Eric, in regards to doing a warranty frame. So if you don't enter a lens, will the order get pushed through the order page? We've created a Plano zero cost lens to use for warranty frames.
Very good question. Thank you very much, Mark. And it might be good to review that little step in here. So if I'm doing a new one in here, let me just do it again very quickly. So here I'm going to select a frame, but I won't select any lenses. So see, my RX is empty. Of course, if I have an RX, I have to remove it. So if I have an RX, it will need lenses, obviously. So please remove any prescription because, of course, it doesn't matter for our frame. But if we leave everything empty on the top, and I do go ahead with the lab order, oops, I'll use my U, sorry, let's say another warranty frame. So I'll click on add lab order and see that message. That message actually says it all. So it says ophthalmic lenses with detail is required to create an order. Yes, okay. But it does ask me, do you want to continue? So right it's saying is that if you want to order lenses, you need lenses. I don't see any lenses right now, but I don't really mind about lenses because I'm doing just a frame order. So no, I don't have to select the lenses if I don't have a prescription. OPTOSYS will allow me to create the order anyway, but of course that order won't be sent to Hoya, SLR, Nikon, or Zeiss, obviously, because it only needs to be ordered through our Marshall supplier. Very good question. Any other good question like this one from our participant today, Marc-André?
Not yet, but I just wanted to add that you want to make sure your frame's set to external as well, right? Just to make sure it gets pushed through the order tab, right?
Absolutely, because if you don't, it will actually be in the order tab, but it'll be hidden by default because it's going to be set as received. So you're absolutely right. And you want to make sure it's external, like I asked in my previous question during that little example.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Eric. Yep. And no other questions. Well, there was one valid point that it's a very good point. If you haven't used the order section and you have thousands of pendings, is there a way to clear them all and start fresh?
There is no easy answer for that. So you might want to actually go in each of them and either receive or cancel the order depending on the situation. So yes, you can always cancel them if they're old or receive them because in reality, I'm sure that you received most of them. So yes, you see here I have some from 2011, so I'm
Yep.
due for a good cleanup myself. So absolutely, so just receiving them will allow you to clear them up.
I do have one more, maybe a bit more advanced. So if you do a warranty and it's just a temple at $20, but the whole frame costs $129, what would you put for the reception costs, and will it affect the inventory price?
Well, yes and no. So, like I said previously, the uh, for parts, what we're going to do instead of actually putting the actual frame in here, we're going to actually put a generic product. So I'm sure that you already have a supplier with the name of your office and where you create maybe some shipping fees and something. So you can create under that frame, type of products, an actual part frame. So it can be called, like I said, you can have multiple, like a front, temple left, temple right. So you can create them as products with details in your catalog. And then when you have to do one of those parts, well, you'll be able to specify. Of course, it won't say Marchand Chloe CR26 temple right. It will just say temple right. So it's under the notes, under the lab order notes, that you'll be able to put all the extra information in here about your temple with the color, the size, and the brand and everything that you need and for which product it is. So you'll be able to define it in here in the under notes. Just because creating a product for every parts possible in our industry, it's pretty much impossible to achieve. So that's why just putting a generic name for that kind of product and putting everything in terms of specifications and notes will suffice. And the whole point is not to disturb the inventory. The whole point is to at least have an order to follow and make sure that we receive at some point and it stays there as pending until we actually receive it. And yes, if you want to know how many temples you have in your inventory, because then you some patient that ordered some but never come and get them, you'll be able to see it in your inventory count for sure. Very good. Any other good question in that vein, Marc-André?
Yeah. So I have frames that are in inventory that you have the company supply. How do you put it back in inventory?
Oh, well, actually, it's easy. The only way to add something to your inventory is through a reception, like I said earlier. So here in the inventory section, of course, very important for us today, we'll have those 4 different, let's say, transaction, which is the reception, the adjustment, the returns, and if you have multiple companies, the inventory, and we can add on top of that the invoices. So if the adjustment and the return and the invoices are there, so we can remove frame because we got it stolen or broken, or return frame to the supplier, or because we sold it to the patient, all those will remove it. But the reception, the first one on the list, will allow you to add it. So if you receive the frame for the first time or for the 19th time, you're always going to have to go under here, under the supplier with the name and the date and everything that you need, and then you'll be able to specify which frame that you receive again if you already received it before, or you'll be able to create new products if you never ordered that frame. And of course, that frame is not in your frame catalog if you use the OPTOSYS frame catalog feature that allows you to see all the frames from major suppliers in the industry, like Luxottica, Aspects, COS, Aspect, Centennial, Westcan, Western, Perfect, Securo, Maui Gym. I'm forgetting a lot here, but you see what I mean. So that's a nice little feature to have if we don't want to create all those products ourselves every time. So yes, creating a reception, even if you receiving the same frame again, is the way to go. But if you're doing it the second time and that frame was entered manually, it will be a lot faster the second time around and the third time because all the definition is already there. Just a matter of looking for it. Any other good question, Mark? We're on a roll.
I'm answering some of these as we go, but I will let you know. Thanks, Eric.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So going back here, so just to do a little recap of that warranty, because of course it will affect pretty much all the cases that we'll see later on. So doing a radio warranty job is important. To add a new spectacle, like I said, not using the original one and modifying it. If you actually do include the frame information here, just know that it will actually be transferred. So the frame information from the previous RX will be transferred as a POF, patient owned frame. So it's mostly when the patient want to have the same lenses because there's a lens warranty and they want to reuse it for the same frame with the same measurements and everything. So that's nice also that we have to reselect the frame again. Then as we remember, so actually we left all the prescription empty. We also left the lenses empty here because we just wanted to actually select the frame in here. We did remove the prices and we did actually put a use call warranty frame. By the way, if you don't have enough uses or you don't have warranty frame, warranty lenses as use in here, click on the little plus and you'll be able to add it as you go. Make sure that you write it correctly because people will be able to use it from then on. And then not doing any invoices because we don't need invoices because there is no patient invoices involved. In that case, then we're going to just do a lab order in here at the bottom. And the finishing touch will be to actually receive that order, to actually get it into the database. Like I said, this is when we actually receive the new frame, and to show that the old frame was returned, we're going to create the return under the return tab in here where we'll be able to specify that it's effective with the right authorization number. So let's see other situations that can happen. And you will see that all of them are different. So I try to tackle different situations that we encounter in our daily lives. So the first one is maybe the easiest. So the patient changes his or her mind before the lab order is sent out. The invoice was emailed. The order is saved, but the patient family regrets the bright orange and they want to go back to the more classical black or gray or gun colored frames. So yes, so in the invoice, because here we'll change the actual frame. So we'll have to actually affect the invoice for that. So going back into OPTOSYS, how to modify an invoice. Of course, this we could do an actual webinar on invoicing in OPTOSYS. But in here, if we need to modify the invoice, we cannot modify the invoice just by changing the order of the patient. Once the invoice is created in OPTOSYS, it's on its own. It's on its own little planet. So if we need to modify something, we'll have to modify it and in the invoice and in the order. So let's start with the invoice, because of course we don't want to make the patient wait for too long. So here, that CE2126 frame, so if I double click on it, I'll be able to see all the details about the, the supplier, brand, frame detail, etc. I'll be able to right click on it and click on cancel product, because this is my bright orange that the patient doesn't want anymore. So I click on remove it from the invoice that might already been paid. Then I'll be able to add a new product, this time with the new, more classical frame, let's say for the patient, going for, I don't know, a Bulgari one. So this is the one that I want. Even if I don't have it in stock, it's not a big deal. However, from the previous frame to that one, there's a bit of a difference in terms of prices. So I'll have to remember to charge the patient for that difference. But at least now, if I print out that invoice, it will actually give me the new frame information and the new frame price instead of the old one. So all that we need to do on the invoice is now done. And then, of course, we can take a payment if it was not already paid, or if it was partially paid, we can actually charge for the remaining balance that came with the new frame. And of course, if the frame was less expensive, either make them pay less or reimburse the patient for the difference. It comes down to the same thing. So once that's done, you can reprint the invoice once again, or just save it if the patient is not in front of you anymore. But we're not finished. So of course, we'll need to also modify. So remember, in my example, my order was not finished or actually ordered yet. So we can always go into our order and click at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it correctly. At the bottom, we have, when we click on lab order, we have the ability to update lab order. So I'm going to show it to you in my slideshow here. So when you click on lab order at the bottom, we see update lab order. And that's after changing the frame in the frame section at the bottom, we'll update the lab order with the new Bulgari frame instead of the previous one that was bright orange. And then when I'm going to order my lenses, it's with that frame that the order will go through. So we modified the invoice, we modified the RX vertical, and then we were able to update the lab order accordingly, so it has the right frame that the patient actually decided on. So that's if the patient changed her mind before we sent out the lab order. Now, patient changes her or his mind after the lab order is set. Of course, this hurts a little bit more because you understand that we'll have to call the lab because it's been sent. So they need to know that they have to stop their lab process. So once again, the invoice this time was printed and that email, the order is sent, but the patient finally regrets the cherry gradient on their lenses and just want to go clear. So let's go step by step. So once again, in the invoice, we'll do the exact same thing. When it cancel the product that need to be replaced. And if it's a frame, it will actually go back in inventory because it will just remove it. And then you'll have the choice, by the way, to either put it back on your board. So if it's a new one that we didn't touch much, we'll be able to just clean it up and put it back on the board. Or you can also return it or do an adjustment if you want to keep it for you or just giving to charity or something. You have the decision, but please know that it's going to go back into inventory as a +1 when we cancel the invoice frame. So now we're going to do the same thing we've done in the invoice. In the order, change the status of the method to the lenses and frame to external. And that's going to be very important because if we do not do that in the order, so I'm going to show you what I mean in here. So that's external. Let me just, which one is not received yet? Yeah, that's a good one. Of course, those are lenses, contact lenses, sorry, by the same principle. So here I put everything as external. So why would I put everything external in the order that I've done is because I need to cancel the order. So I'm only going to be able to cancel the order if the order is not status received, or there's no product in the order as being received. So of course, if I just send the order, they shouldn't be received between you and me, so it should be easy to cancel. And we want to cancel it because that's why we're going to actually call the lab for it. Say, hey, cancel that lab order that I sent you 2 hours ago for this reference patient because they no longer want this specific lenses, they want something else. I'm going to send you something else, another lab order for that same patient later on today. So we want to reflect what we said to the lab in OPTOSYS by also canceling the order. And then again, we'll be able to actually go and add spectacle. Once again, don't modify the order that you already did. Even if you canceled it, just create a new one altogether. And yes, you'll be able to use the same RXs, maybe not the same lens, because that's what we want to modify, and even name the same lab order if you wanted to in terms of notes. And then you'll be able to select the new lenses for your patient. So if I have, let's say, a very simple RX in here, I'm going to look for my single vision, and I'm going to go with that Hoya lenses in here. And that's the new one. I'll be able to also take the information from my frame, which is going to be a patient-owned frame because the patient already bought it. If not, it's going to be just a normal, the same frame, going to put there again and again and again, just to have the same information if they didn't change their mind on the frames. And yes, that's what we're going to actually order to the lab this time by clicking on lab order. And of course, I forgot to build the PD, but you understand what I'm doing right now. So I'm doing a brand new lab order that I'm going to send directly to Hoya in that case. Of course, going back in the RX, one thing that I wanted to underline in here is that you won't do a new invoice because you already did the invoice that we modify for the lenses. So you don't have to do a second invoice for the patient. You can use the same invoice that we modified. So going back here, so what we did is that in the order we changed the status of the method to the lens and frame to external, because that's the only way we're going to be able to cancel the order. And like I said, don't forget to call your lab. Then you'll have to create a new RX based on the previous one to also create a new order with the right products and order it in, but not invoicing it. So that is creating after we send the lab order, but of course, before we receive it. So I know there's a lot of things to comprehend. Any questions in the chat, Marc-André?
No questions right now, but thanks. Hopefully I answered some of your questions correctly. Don't hesitate to ask more or let me know if I wasn't clear in my responses. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mark. And there's a third situation. Of course, I'll let you manage the situation as they go in your office. But if you want to go there, what are we going to do? So giving a full refund for glasses. So patient bought the glasses a couple weeks, month ago, wear them, not only receive them, but it's actually on their nose, so it's not in the inventory anymore, and they want a complete reimbursement, refund for the glasses, and they give you back the glasses, obviously. So what needs to be done? So in the invoice, so go back in OPTOSYS, I think it's always good to actually see OPTOSYS in action in those cases. If we had an invoice, oops, those are contact lenses. Let me just see if I have a frame only. Oh, let's do the new one that I just created. Yeah, this one is good. So here I have that frame, that very nice Bulgari frame, very expensive Bulgari frame in my invoice. And the patient returned to me with, his 1.6 clear lenses with the X3 Plus. So he wants the whole thing reimbursed. Since on that invoice, there's only the lenses and the frame and the treatment what I can do to save time is to right-click on the whole invoice and click on Cancel Invoice. OPTOSYS will just make sure that this is what I want to do because we cannot reverse it afterwards. And will even ask me, how do you want to reimburse a patient for that $1,880? So do you want to keep the original payment methods? Of course, if the patient paid originally by Visa, MasterCard, debit, that's easy. But if they paid cash, you might not have that amount in your drawer, in your cash drawer. So you might actually give them a check instead. So at least OPTOSYS will allow you to change the reimbursement method if you wanted to. So when you click on OK, OPTOSYS will cancel everything along with the payments to actually have a new invoice, this time with everything reversed. So you'll be able to see who actually created the invoice and who reversed it, as you'll have a complete history of what happened for the patient. Same thing for the payments when we actually receive a payment and when we wrote a check for the patient for reimbursement of that thing. So that's just for the invoice. So we reverse the invoice altogether, canceling the invoice out. And I do recommend maybe to put a little note in here, an internal note for us to say reimburse as per, and then the name of your manager and so forth, so that we all know what happened and you can actually put the whole history and the reason why it was refunded. So yeah, so we did that. And then for the order, since it's already been received and completed, you don't need to cancel it because yeah, patient had it for a month, maybe. So there's nothing to do on the actual order to do with the patient. Of course, if the patient have a reimbursement and buy something else, of course, we'll have to go through the whole, dispensing, doing the RX medical, and then the order like we normally do, and of course, charging for those in the new invoice. But yeah, the point is that we don't need to do anything on the order if the order was complete anyway. Like I said, I always say is that I would advise to put a specific note maybe in the medical RX, just once again, like we did on the invoice, just to specify what the story was, so we understand that this order, even if it was completed, came out refunded. And once again, if we cancel that invoice like we did, that same frame will be back in your inventory like everything else that we cancel in the invoice that has a detail. Very good. Time is flying by. So let's see what else that we have on the inventory. So we have, of course, very detailed reports and OPTOSYS. The first one is the adjustment report. So this will allow you to see all your frame that you lost, given, or broken from the inventory. So everything that you remove something because something happened to the frame and it's been removed without being sold or returned. And then there's the item inventory, which is the main report, allowing you to see what's currently live in your inventory. So that live thing is super important. So I know you guys are getting very good with OPTOSYS. So it's important to understand that this items inventory report is live, meaning if you want to have January 1st inventory for your accountant, well, you pretty much have to print that report on January 1st. So it's very important to print that inventory on the right day because we cannot backdate that report in OPTOSYS. So it's important to stick with the dates. However, even if we cannot date it, we can do a lot of things. So we can do it by brand, by supplier, category, and even by reception date. So if you want to see all your frames that are older than 1 year old that you still have in your inventory today, you'll be able to filter them out. It's also important to understand that this is a report we use also for the yearly or bi-yearly inventory count. So if you're counting your frame, that's the report to print and to cross-check with what we have on the board to see if we have any missing frame in OPTOSYS or missing frames on the board. Then we have the return report. So this is a report that we use very often because it can also be used to print a list of frame to be sent back to the supplier. So if your rep comes in and have a list of frame that they want to take back and say, well, just say ship it to the company, ship all those, 16 frames. Well, instead of having to fill out their form to say which frame, which reception number it was, which date did you receive it more than 1 year ago, you'll be able to use that report to print that out, and you'll have all the information on that report for the suppliers to see. because you can do it by suppliers, by date, and by statuses, etc. And then we have the last one, which is a little bit underused in OPTOSYS. I love that report, but I don't see, or I don't know if you guys are using it. It's actually a very nice report called the sales statistics. So it allowed the board managers to have objective sales return and stock ratios, giving you a tool to optimize the value of your board and to have the best turnover rate on your board as possible. So I hope that we have some time, because I wanted to show it to everyone, since then again, you're experts in OPTOSYS. That's something that not everyone uses. So it's actually this one here, sales statistics. And if you place yourself in the first month, you'll have the first year that you'll be able to delve into in terms of having all the months of the year, or let's say 2021 or 2022 so far. And then you can choose a specific category of frame if you want to, or you can go by suppliers and by brand. It's just that if you want to go by brand, you have to specify a specific supplier, let's say Luxottica, and then you have all the brands of Luxottica under it, if that's what you're looking for. You can also order it by quantity sold to have the best selling brand of Luxottica in our list. So if I click on OK, I don't know if I have any Luxottica in stock. No, now let me just do it again, if you don't mind. I tried something, but I failed. Let me just go to the 1/20/12, and I'll just do all suppliers, because that's going to be easier for us to see the actual results. Because I'm going to zoom in a little so you guys can see the details. So here I can see that my best seller, and I can see all my sales month after month, Stafilo. The second one is COS, then Viva, then Perfect, etc. So here I can see my total sales, and I can see the actual stock. So when I say actual stock, is the stock at the end of that period. So here, if I want to compare, let's say, my COS and my Viva, well, COS I sold 104 through the year, which is nice. And Viva, it's very close third at 99. However, if I look at my stock, well, actually Viva was much better in terms of ratio of the inventory, because we only have 47 remaining in stock, where in COS we have 113. So we had a lot more in stock to start with COS. So the ratio of sales per frame is a lot lower. So that's why we have that .92 for COS and that 2.11 for Viva. So for me, there's a lot of value in that ratio, because I can see which suppliers and which brand, which frame works the best in my market objectively, without we all have a good idea which frames sell the best, because we have our experience, but this one gives you objective numbers. And then that's including with the returns. So if you want to see how many returns were done for each of them in that same time frame, and the ratio of the returns on those sales on stock ratios. So it's very detailed if you want to better manage your board and really optimize each board space for your frames, so you have the best turnover rate as possible. So sorry for that, I had to say it. I have to complete also with the famous KPIs that we have in OPTOSYS. So under the management indicators, we have some indicators about the inventory. The first one is the inventory period. So if you want to compare how many frames you had from one period to another, this will give you a good tool to do that. And the next one I like is your frame inventory turnover. So then again, it will actually do that same calculation that I showed you in the statistics report, but not as granular per supplier, just as a whole, and say, hey, this month you actually have less turnover. So you actually, the average frame stays 8 months on your board instead of 9. So that will tell you that you're actually better managing your board than the previous period or not. So then again, I know not all of you uses it, but the management indicators are still in the report. Management indicator, and dashboard Excel, and that's where you'll be able to see those numbers. So yes, I'm too late again. So the inventory in OPTOSYS has been made from the ground up for our industry, incorporating a solid base of data integrity and management while retaining the usual ease of use that OPTOSYS is known for. So yeah, so you'll be able to see that, you'll be able to see, sorry, during my presentation, that everything is logic. We tend to reuse the same components and the same feature in the same logic over and over again in OPTOSYS. So trying to, once you understand that flow, it'll be easier for you to achieve all those different situations where we have do an inventory count, a redo, a warranty, or that we just need to manage the board more efficiently. So I hope that you all been able to get some information from my webinar. Marc-André, do we have any questions? Maybe.
I've got a couple questions here. Yes. So first question here is, is it possible to print a report with the date and invoice number for each frame in stock?
Absolutely, very good question. So going under the inventory reports, obviously we're going to go under the items inventory. Like I said previously, this is our main inventory report, the go-to inventory report for pretty much everything. And looking at the frame, in here is going to be very important for that specific need to actually use a detail level called detailed. The detail level will give us that inventory number and even that reception date also at the same time. So when I click on OK in here, because I just want to have the stock greater than 0, meaning the frame that I still have in stock today, it will give me all the frame that I still have in stock at the moment. Let me just zoom in a little so you guys can see a bit more. And not only will be able to see their product and number, color, category, ledge, bridge, sample, but also the invoice number of that frame along with the date. So you might see sometimes that you have the same product number twice. Well, that's because they have different invoice numbers in here. So you'll be able to see each of them with each their invoice numbers and dates. So you can present it maybe to your rep when it comes in and say, hey, those are from 2014 and 15. It might be time that you take them back. Very good. Any other good question like this one, Marc-André?
Yes, I got a couple more here. So, well, this is a tricky one for you, Eric. So, and it's a great question actually. So, why are some orders in the RX module marked in red?
In the RX. Oh yeah. Okay. Very
Yeah.
good. So absolutely. So here, it's actually all based on one date. So whatever it's a doctor RX. So we can see here that little RX icon beside it on the left. And or it could be also an actual order, a spectacle RX. So we ordered an optometry RX or a spectacle RX if and only if the expiry date is in the past, it will be in red. So whatever we have this type of RX or this one, if the expiry date is in the past, it's going to be in red just to make sure that the staff doesn't give it out to the patient or print an RX from it for the patient to see. So we're going to try to keep the green ones in green. Greens mean go. So actually, you'll be able to, the staff will know just to print the RX from the green one, because the green ones are the RX that not only are not expired, but also that are signed by the doctor, so valid to be printed and emailed.
I've got one more great question here for you, Eric.
Please.
Do the sales statistic report differentiate between new purchases and warranty orders of whole frames? We may sell a frame 4 times, but warranty is 7. Will the report show that?
Well, the sales statistics will actually give you sales per se. So it's not the actual inventory, transaction like we used to. So even if you actually remove like the frame using an adjustment, it won't be taking into the numbers here. So the numbers you see here, 9 cells, those are taken from the invoice. So it's only the invoice transaction that we can see month to month in here, and the total will just give you the number of frame that we still have invoice, so when we sold. It could have been sold at, $500 or $2. It doesn't actually reflect that amount, but it's somewhere in the invoice. And of course, the returns are just for the returns, but that doesn't take any adjustment or anything like that in here. So if you're doing a warranty, you're not doing any invoices, so those won't count in the sales statistics. It's only the sales. So that's why it's called the sales statistics and not the inventory statistics. But that was a great question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I got one more for you if you still have time.
Of course, go ahead, please.
Okay, so maybe we'll ask these two questions at the same time since they're both kind of related. So the first question here is, if the only time a frame is taken out of inventory is when it's invoiced, how does it work for warranty frames we receive? Wouldn't this put the inventory in the negative?
Good question. So the warranty frame that we received are actually added to the invoice and not removed. So when we do a warranty, normally, well, the frame has already been sold to the patient, so there's zero in stock at the moment. And when we actually right-click and receive that new order that we got for the new frame, it will put it in your inventory. So it will actually create a reception. So reception means +1 in the inventory. So if right after you received a frame for the warranty, you print the item inventory report, well, then you'll be able to see it right away. However, like I said earlier, best practice is not to leave it in your inventory, obviously, because it's not your frame anymore. It's going to be a replacement frame from your patient. Then you'll have to create a return, and that's the important part that will actually rebalance your inventory at zero, because a return, like an adjustment, like an invoice, will do that -1 in your inventory. So if you had a +1 and a -1, you come back to zero. Good question.
All right, and then the same idea, if you do a refund and cancel the invoice, the frame goes back into stock, ? But what if it's external lenses?
Well, here, when we cancel an invoice, like I did here, yes, absolutely. So the frame and the lenses and everything will be put back in stock. So of course, it only affects you if you're actually managing the lenses in stock. So if you have stock lenses, obviously, but yes, you'll be able to put those lenses back in stock. However, we understand that those lenses being cut for that frame, you might not be able to sell them anymore. So you have a choice. Either you hope that you'll have smaller frames to be able to put them in eventually if you have stock lenses, and you can keep them as stock, of course. But obviously, I would understand if instead of putting those lenses, 1.6 clear EXP, instead of putting them in stock, you'll actually go into your inventory section and adjust them. So you don't just discard them or give them to somebody or whatever you want, charity or something. Or if your suppliers accept it, you can still return them. But of course, that's going to be your prerequisite to either keep them, adjust them to remove them from inventory, or to return them. But the frame has been added to your inventory for sure after that cancellation.
Awesome. Here, okay, one more question here. That is great. So how does the adjustment report know what products were lost or broken?
Well, that's a very good question. And once again, thank you everyone for all those excellent questions. I'm sure that helps everyone. When we actually come here and specify an adjustment, and by the way, it's the same thing pretty much for the return, OPTOSYS will ask you to specify the reason for the return. So once again, if you had a loss, stolen, damage, loaner, donation, inventory correction, defective, not warranty, etc. So let's say this one is the donation. If I save it, I'll be able to see that I have an adjustment for a donation in here. And when doing that same report for adjustment, I'll be able to specify that I only want to see my donations. But of course, for your following your question, if I had different reason for stolen and a different one for lost and damage, because in my database I put all them together because for me they all go together, I'll be able to differentiate them for doing different reports in here and seeing the reason.
Yeah, and I think a part of that question is also, how do I add reasons here, right? Because they might and I'm not sure that was the question, but I think it's important there, because we might want to be able in the report to say that there's different reasons, but if they're combined and lost and stolen together, then I won't actually know how much of which is actually lost or actually stolen.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. So now that we have a list and following a webinar, I want to differentiate my stolen, lost, and damaged to be creating new reasons in here to be able to have a better granularity in here. I'll let you answer, Mark, if you don't mind. Where would you go here to add a new reason directly from the screen?
Absolutely. So in there's a lot of drop downs in OPTOSYS that have this function, but if you look closely next to the drop down, there is an arrow and there's a little plus sign, and this plus sign lets you add things to personalize list in the system and pretty much anywhere in the system, right, Eric?
Exactly. So here the plus sign will allow you to actually add a new reason. So let's call it the new mark reason. And when I click on save, it will be added to my list forever. So here I'll be able to add more. So if you don't have enough reasons in here in the returns, but also the use maybe in your RX, you'll be able to use a little plus sign to add those reasons if you want to. And just as an extra here, because I know you guys are experts, it's under settings, inventory, and reason for adjustment in that specific case that we can manage that same list. So here we'll be able to see the new mark reason if needed. And if Eric added it, but I don't want it to sound like something else, I can click on the ubiquitous modify and change it if needed. Same thing by removing or adding new ones from here. You'll be able to do the whole management or removing and modify. But if the goal is just to add, you can do it directly from the add adjustment window. Very good. Thank you very much, Mark. Any one of those high hand questions?
That will be it for today, I believe.
Very good. I know it's late. There's so much to say. One last thing I wanted to show you as a bonus, everyone. So in the inventory session of OPTOSYS, we added about 2-3 fixes ago. It's not being very long, so you might just be able to see that yourself. So for the super users out of you, we added a inventory section where you'll be able to see directly in OPTOSYS without having to go in that items inventory report all the time, all the frames that you have for specific suppliers or brands or whatever. So here, you're only going to be able to see the frame that you have in stock. So contrarily to the search product, it's only searching through your inventory. That's called the tab, it's called inventory. And then not only you'll be able to see your inventory that you have right now by material, by product type, by supplier brand and products, but also you'll be able to transfer those frames that you have in inventory to another company in OPTOSYS. So if you have multiple locations and you would like either to start or continue exchanging frames, but it's a much better way, you can use the inventory stock movement that we added, allowing you to specify which frame you want to send to your other office, specify the quantity that you want to send if you have more than one, let's say for miscellaneous products or even contact lenses, and then you can specify to which company you want to send it to. What's nice in here is that when it's sent, it will actually give you a report of how much the other clinic is actually owing you in terms of cost. So since they're buying your lenses, of course, we're going to do them at cost. We're not devils. We don't make profit on those, but at least you'll be able to follow up on that. And if you want, you can even see a stock movement where you'll be able to see everything that was transferred from who to where and how much and how many. So if you have multiple offices, it's a nice little tool. And if you don't have multiple offices, the inventory tab will allow you to see, to search for your inventory at the moment without having to print or to look at a report. So that's a little bonus that I wanted to give you. So thank you very much, anyone. Thank you for your participation. Thank you very much, Mark, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions. It's been awesome and very participative. very dynamic. So thank you once again. At the end of the session, you'll be redirected to a short survey, which will help us to better plan the next sessions. Leave your comments. Tell us what you would like, maybe in terms of other subjects that you would like, and we'll be more than happy to maybe do a webinars on those. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to contact us through support@optosys.ca or by phone at 1-866-660-6797. Once again, thank you very much. Have a nice day, everyone, and see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.